can then pick up a customer, and I'm going to do this for the US customer Inc. And it's going to have 10 bullets on it, and it's going to have 10 handguns. And then here, if I want to, I can change the exchange rate. So I'm going to change that to 2. And I'm then going to save it. And again, I can either save and post through here, or I can do it through the post invoices menu option. Once we've saved and posted an invoice, it's important to know that you can't amend it, whereas if you just save it, you can come in later and amend it. I'm going to save and post through this screen. And if I just open that invoice back up again, find invoice, open it up, I can also view the journal by clicking the View Journal button, and I can see the journal that's created in the background. And you'll note that it does confirm cost of goods postings automatically. Interprise will always do the confirm cost of goods sold. Okay, so back in the invoice, what we're going to do this time is convert this to a credit memo, which will basically create a credit identical to the invoice. So it'll effectively reverse the invoice. So if we say yes to create a credit memo from that, and there's our credit memo. So basically putting the goods back into stock basically. And we've got an option here where they're coming back in as good stock. So if we sent them out in error or we sent the wrong parts, we put them back into our main location in the warehouse so we can sell them again. But if they're defective in some way, we'd probably put the quantity in the defective column, which comes into our defective location, and we can't then sell the goods straight away. We'd have to transfer the ones that were actually good back into the main location at some point in the future. So I'm going to save and close on my credit. And I'm just going to create the credit. I don't want it to allocate to anything. I'll do the allocation manually later. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is create an RMA, and I'm going to create it for just an active customer, for a toy customer UK. So an RMA is like a stage before a credit really. It's sort of authorising the customer to send you the goods back. We're going to have 10 bullets on our RMA, and if we save it, we can see we get a unique CRMA reference. So sometime later we'll assume that the goods have now come back to us, so the customer's actually sent the goods back, so we're now going to process the RMA and create a credit note. There's 2 ways that we can do that. We can either do it from within the RMA, convert to credit note there, or you can do it from new credit note and select from an open RMA. So if I just close that and go into new credit note, I have the option here of selecting one from an open RMA. So if I double click that, okay, now again I can put these into good or defective. For this one we're going to put it all into good and save the credit. Again, I'm just going to create it. If I then click the print button, I can then print the credit. Okay, there's my credit note. Okay, I'm going to go and create another RMA now. This time though from an existing invoice. So like we created a credit from an existing invoice, we can create an RMA from an existing invoice. So we need to put in here the quantities that we're going to confirm on the RMA. So you can see here we shipped 10 of the handgun and 10 of the bullets. So we're going to set these quantities to be half of the amounts we shipped. So we're just going to put 5 in there and 5 in there. We're then going to save the RMA. Save and close. The next thing we're going to do is create a credit note again. So new credit note. This time we're going to just do it from an active customer. So not from an RMA, not from an invoice, but the third tab along for an active customer. And we're going to do it for a toy customer UK. and we're going to have 10 bullets on here. Again, we're entering the quantity into the good column, put them back into normal stock, and this credit isn't linked to an RMA or anything else. So I'm just going to save and close on that. Again, create the credit, don't want to allocate it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is create a customer receipt. So I'm going to go into the new customer receipt option, and we're going to create our customer receipt for A Toy Customer UK, and it's going to be for £100. I'm going to put £100 into the quantity, and if I just click save at that point, when I'm happy with the values I've put in, I get a receipt number at the top. I can then go in the allocation details tab and allocate my receipt off to something else. So what I can now do is it automatically ticks receipt number 1, and we want to allocate that to invoice number 1. So our credits for £100, so if we click invoice number 1, what it will do is part allocate. So it can only allocate the 100, and we'll still have a balance of £28.49 outstanding on our invoice. Okay, so if I save that, it will do the allocation for me. It tells me there's no gain or loss being posted for that transaction. What I'm now going to do is go and have a look at the customer, so I can either go into find customer, or I can click on this customer detail button from here, which takes me straight into the customer account. I'm going to go into the transactions tab, and then I'm going to go into the ledger. Okay, and this shows me all open transactions to start with. Now if I want to see the allocation on that, if I look at my invoice, which was that one, invoice number 1, we can see it's now got an outstanding balance of £28.49. We can also see the original balance of the invoice was £128.49. So if I double click on the outstanding balance, it'll tell me why that what the allocation consists of. So I can see that the receipt of £100 was allocated to it, which is why obviously the balance was less. Okay, so I'll close that and close that. So I'm going to go and create another customer receipt for our US customer this time, and it's going to be $100, but the exchange rate is going to be 1.5. Doing this so that we can show a loss or gain transaction, and we're going to still use the UK bank, and we can actually, if we double click on the currency amount, we can put a charge in there. So we're actually going to put a £1 bank charge into here. So let's presume that for putting dollars into our UK bank, into our GBP bank, we're going to get charged £1 for it. So I'll close that like so. Okay, and then we'll save the receipt. And then if I drill down into the bank account using the hyperlink on the receipt, we can have a look at the transaction shown in our bank account. So there's basically the £100 receipt I did on the first for our UK customer. There's our 66.67 for our US customer, and you can see there's the pound going out of our bank, which is for the bank charge that I entered. Okay, so if I go back from this and go into the allocation details for our receipt, what I'm now going to do is allocate this receipt here to invoice number 5. Okay, so again we're going to have a